This is the fifth in a series of conversations with Mr. Don Anderson of Roswell, New Mexico. We're seated at his kitchen table, and we get a glimpse of the personality, this even personality of the man. Then he walks us through the evolution of the house that we see, and he moves into some of his opinions about the world we live in and what's next. The fifth conversation with Don Anderson. Tell me this, what characteristics do you really value and look for in other people?
Oh, that's a hard question. Well, I guess whether I like them or not.
Okay, fair enough. What do you dislike in other people?
Well, that's the same hard question. That takes a little doing before I discover that.
Okay, so pretty much you get along with everybody to begin with. You have great drive in your life.
Yes, right.
Where did you get it, and how would you describe it?
I think it's just as a matter of doing what you want to do, and there's always time to do what is important for you. Like some of my most productive painting times have been my busiest business times, so the drive is just natural. If you want to do things, and it's as simple as that.
How about your mom and dad? What characteristics do you think you got from either one of them? And were they equally driven?
Well, my father was very unusual and active in many ways. And besides being a Chicago banker, he was twice decorated by kings of England, and had a wide interest in the Chicago Art Institute. He was on their board, and had a wonderful Swedish choral club that performed at Orchestra Hall every year. And so he had many interests. And my mother was a housekeeper, and of course she was well-read, had many friends, but not the kind of obvious things my father was doing that, when the king and queen of Sweden came, Sally and I were there for the first king was back in, he's the father of the present one, great tennis player, very tall man, but the last decoration was given by the present king, and the queen was there. It was luncheon in Chicago, so on that occasion.
What was the award for, the decoration?
For furthering the interests of Sweden in America.
Tell us about what you consider some of your greatest achievements in life.
Well, I would think it'd be starting in keeping the Artist-in-Residence Program going, because that is something that Sally and I live with every day, talk about, and the number of artists have been in the program, staying a year at a time. We get to know them very well. We entertain them here, and so when they leave, we're losing real friends going off someplace else.
In the world of business, what do you consider your greatest achievement?
Oh, I suppose, I've drilled wells, explored all over the country, some in England, and many of the United States, and that I've been successful at it, and that I'm still doing it. That along the way, we've had some very hard times, and some good people have just gone out of business and gone broke, and I've felt that, but never to absolutely losing it, and so we're still going strong and enjoying it.
Well, along with great achievements, what have you failed at anything in life?
Oh, I suppose I don't recall. Just you remember the good times better than the bad times.
Let's talk about your love of jazz and the clubs that you visited. You shared with me some that you used to go out to the coast and so on, and you've seen a quite remarkable number of artists.
Yes, well, when my brother and I were in business together, we had businesses on the West Coast, and I would be there frequently, and in the evening, one of the company lawyer was also very interested in jazz, and he and I would make the tour in Hollywood or wherever we were, and we saw great people, like Billie Holiday and Louis Armstrong and let's see, Count Basie and just any number of those names. And these would be in settings where you'd be right up there sitting with them. So it was a wonderful experience.
Has your life ever been in physical danger? Did you ever think, uh-oh, I may cash it in today?
Oh, no, not really. Few times in the Navy, but we were on ships that weren't really endangered. We were fired on one time by friendly fire, which was the closest thing I ever encountered, but that's about it.
In all of your wide world travels, you've never felt endangered then?
Oh, sure, right. Well, I remember in Afghanistan, we were visiting ruins, and it's a lawless country, and we were in an area where a guy came up with a soldier that we were not supposed to be there. I don't know why, but it was just a remote site, and pulled a rifle out and pointed it at us. So, those are things like that are frightening, because you don't know whether this person might just pull the trigger. So there have been occasions like others.
Let's talk about your politics. I understand that you're a Democrat.
Yes, that's right, I am.
Now, you come from a banking family and you're in oil and gas.
Right.
Why in the world are you a Democrat and not a Republican?
Well, I'm smart. And my family were all Republicans. In fact, my sister was visiting here, and over in my shop there was a big picture of Bill Clinton hanging there, and this was several years ago, and she said, well, you could change parties. And I said, well, you could too, so, but that's about it. We each have our own opinions.
Share some more of your opinions on why you've chosen to stay in the Democratic fold, when surely the vast majority of your colleagues are probably not where you are.
Right. Well, in business, you can just figure anyone is a Republican. And in Roswell, New Mexico, you can figure everyone's a Republican. So you got to kind of be quiet and feel them out before you start talking politics.
Have you always been a Democrat then, or?
Well, I was an independent for a while. My brother had the idea he was going to run for governor in New Mexico. And, well, in fact, at the time, how was it? Because of him, I registered as a Republican, yes, right. And then when it was obvious that he was not going to be the governor, I became a Democrat. Right.
You have a home in England.
Yes, right.
Tell us about that.
Well, it's a farm I bought in 1970. So that's been 38 years ago now. And I found it through a poet and writer friend who was traveling in England and had frequently worked and spent years in England. And he had a friend who was the poet laureate of England, and Basil Bunting. And Basil told Jonathan Williams that he should look into this particular part of the Yorkshire Dales where our farm is. And as a result of Basil pointing Jonathan towards the best place, sort of what we think is.
And you go over there, how much time do you spend there?
Oh, we spend about 10 weeks a year. First trip in the spring and then in the fall.
What draws you back and keeps you there?
Well, I like it here, and a business and a lot of other things. And if we can spend 5 weeks there in the spring, we're ready to come home and have a little time in Roswell and then go back in the fall.
Sounds like a nice balance to me. You're entering your ninth decade, 90 years, birthday coming up, in what I think's one of the most amazing times, if not the most amazing time in human history to live, and what you've seen. Share with us a little bit about when you look back over the decades of your life and what's happened in the world. What do you see?
Well, the scientific and technological changes are the most obvious. You know, we had a radio as a child that had a round drum of, and to tune it, you moved a little stylus along to get the station, and of course it had no loudspeakers. They were developed later. Were earphones, and then suddenly you'd hear something that was magic. But there was, of course, not much programming. In fact, I wonder what we did here, but it was magic. And of course, then loudspeakers came and to radios with tubes in them and television. And the world was so much smaller then. You know, the population was this population of this country was less than 100 million when I was growing up. Now it's over 300 million. And the same thing has happened. The world population in the Orient has even happened faster than that. And my father, of course, in his time, they discovered the light bulb, and so in the span of my father's to mine is just an incredible change to where from traveling by foot and horse to flying in 747 airplanes. Everything in life is so different and was in his time and as mine as a child.
Where do you think we are right now? What do you think's going to happen?
Well, I'd like to think things are going to get better because we're right now in a deep recession that's been going on for 17 or 18 months, and day by day it seems to get a little worse, and I think we have a president now who is capable of leading us out of it, and I have great confidence in that, but it's a difficult road ahead, and I just hope it's going to turn around fast, but it's hard to think that it will.
You see continued dependence upon oil as a fuel for moving vehicles, and with worldwide demand staying high, or alternate fuels? What do you think's going to happen?
Oil is going to be the important fuel for 10 or 20 years, I believe. When we start developing alternate things, the price of oil goes down to where it's not economically feasible to spend on alternate things that are so much more expensive than the cost of fuel, and that's just been the case from one cycle to the next, where it looks like now's the time to develop a new fuel, and we're so far from that that it's a long way off. I mean, there will be other fuels, but in terms of the whole world using new technology, I think is a long way off.
Anything in the next few years that you're really looking forward to doing? Have you done it all?
No, I'm sure I haven't. I don't know what it is, but I just keep doing what I want to do, and it changes from time to time.
That's a great, it's a great option in life to be able to do what you choose to do. So you think you've done fairly well in life?
Yes, I think so.
Okay. Let's, we're here in your home. Tell us a little bit about the home, and then we'll probably do a little visual tour, perhaps, as you tell us about it.
Right. Well, I came here in 1946 when I got out of the Navy, and after a few months found this farm and this house, and was able to buy it, and the 50-acre farm, and this house plus a couple of others on the property cost $25,000, and that was hard to come up with, but I was able to get a mortgage and buy the house, which was an absolute wreck. There was the old heating system was gone. There was no hot water. The roof leaked. And the general opinion was that it was a tear down. But from that first day, we moved in here, and I've lived here ever since. This middle part, this living room back here, was built in 1900 and was the main part of the house when we moved in. We're in the kitchen now, but it has changed, but it was here too. And at one time, the roof was so bad in the living room that we removed the roof and the rafters, and you could walk around there and look at the blue sky and clouds up in the living room. So we've had dramatic changes, and the house has expanded in every direction.
So there's downstairs, there's a couple of rooms with a lot of books in them.
Right.
And that's a guest bedroom as well?
There are 3 second-story parts, each with their own stairways. This one right to my right here is Sally's study, which we built after we married, and other additions were added to accommodate having her family and my family visiting at the same time. So we have more bedrooms, bathrooms, and the library was a part that we had been added on to it after Sally and I were married, because she and Bill Majette had a big library too. So that's the combination of our 2 libraries.
Very light and very spacious, very southwest, and then there's a long hallway, then entryway as you come in, with displaying various works of art. When did you put that in?
I think it was in the late 60s. I always wanted to have a tower, so I built the tower and under the tower now is the front door. And from there we built a corridor into what was the front of the house, or is still the front of the house. And abandoned, as you walk out to the swimming pool, that was the original entrance to the house. Of course, the swimming pool wasn't there either.
Are you done adding on?
We may be or we may not be. It just depends on what ideas might come, and idea of inventing need for more room. This house has very few walls in it. What is the biggest problem is with getting in all these windows, you lose walls. So with a fairly big collection of paintings, my own and others, we have a hard time showing all those, but I once walked through the house and counted over 100 of my paintings, which seemed kind of absurd to say, but that was actually the truth, and many of them just little paintings. So, but that was probably one of the good reasons for building the Anderson Museum. It took the pressure off of this house, and we had my collection from the residency program, and Sally and Bill Majette had things from the program. So the combine our things now that are mostly in the Roswell Museum, in the Anderson Museum. There's still a lot from the residency program in the house here still.
Sounds like you are enjoying life, sir.
Yes, I am. I've always have. I've never really felt like there's nothing else to do and just sit around. So, yes, very much so.
You seem to be very positive, very constant, level sort of person. Is that how you are inside?
I think so, yes. Right.
Well, may you continue to be level and on upward grade for the next decade.
Right. Yes, right. Okay, good.
Don Anderson, thank you very much for having us in your home.
All right. Thank you, Hugh.